The massive chamber of the Galactic Taxonomy Council glowed with soft blue light. Hundreds of alien beings sat in their designated areas, waiting for the routine meeting to begin. This was supposed to be just another ordinary day of reviewing planetary classifications. Senior taxonomist Velrin floated to the center platform. His tentacles moved across the holographic controls, pulling up the next file for review. The name appeared in large letters across every screen in the chamber. Current classification is Class 7 Moderate Hazard World, Velrin announced through his translator device. This planet is scheduled for its 50-year reassessment today. Most council members barely looked up. Earth had been part of the galactic community for decades now. Humans worked in their hospitals, flew their ships, taught in their schools. Everyone knew them. What could possibly need changing? Velrin began uploading the new data. Numbers filled the screens. Then more numbers. Then biological scans and environmental readings. One by one, the council members stopped their side conversations. They stared at the screens with growing alarm. The gravity measurement must be incorrect, Council Member Thriss said, his voice uncertain. It shows Earth's gravity is 1.4 times our standard measurement. The measurement is correct, Velrin replied calmly. We verified it 17 times. And this atmospheric composition, another member called out. 21% oxygen? That concentration is toxic to most of our species. It would literally poison us. Also correct, Velrin confirmed. The chamber filled with confused murmuring. How had humans been living and working among them if their home world was so dangerous? Velrin pulled up the biological analysis next. Human physiology shows several unusual features. They possess backup organ systems. If one kidney fails, another continues functioning. Their tissue regeneration is remarkable. Wounds that would kill most species heal in days. Perhaps they are just unusually hardy, Thriss suggested weakly. There is more. Velrin's voice became serious. Humans possess what they call an adrenaline response. When threatened, their bodies release special chemicals. These chemicals triple their strength, increase their speed, and reduce their sensation of pain. They essentially become superpowered versions of themselves when fighting or fleeing. The chamber went completely silent. Velrin was not finished. We also discovered something about Earth's ecosystem. The planet contains millions of species, many of them predatory. Humans are not even the strongest or fastest species on their own world. They survived by becoming the most intelligent and cooperative. A new holographic image appeared. It showed a creature called a bear standing 3 meters tall with massive claws. Then a crocodile with jaws that could crush bone. Then a tiny insect called a mosquito that killed hundreds of thousands of humans every year by spreading diseases. They evolved alongside these creatures, Velrin explained. Their entire development as a species involved surviving on a planet actively trying to kill them. Council Member Thriss felt his blood sac deflating in fear. But we have worked with humans for years. They seem so normal. So peaceful. Velrin pulled up a security recording. This footage is from 3 months ago. Human colonists from the ship Endeavour encountered a KRYL raiding party. Every being in the chamber knew about the KRYL. They were the terror of the Outer Rim. Massive warriors who destroyed everything in their path. Even military fleets avoided engaging them directly. The recording played. The council watched in stunned horror as a group of humans fought the KRYL using improvised weapons. Metal pipes. Pieces of broken machinery. Their own hands and feet. A human woman, bleeding heavily from multiple wounds, dragged 2 KRYL warriors into a cargo container. Each KRYL was twice her size and armored. She should have been dead from her injuries. Instead, she sealed the container and then calmly radioed for medical assistance. She survived those injuries? Someone whispered. She was released from medical care after 2 days, Velrin answered. The chamber erupted in panicked conversation. Voices in dozens of languages overlapped, translators struggling to keep up. How did we not know this? We let them into our cities. My daughter's teacher is human. Velrin waited for the noise to quiet down. Based on this new evidence, I am calling for an immediate vote on Earth's reclassification. The voting system activated. Council members entered their decisions quickly, almost frantically. The results appeared instantly. Unanimous. Earth is hereby reclassified as a Class 15 Deathworld, Velrin announced officially. This places it in the same category as Vex Prime and Corthax. Everyone knew those planets. Vex Prime, where the rain was acid and the air was poison. Corthax, where gravity crushed spacecraft before they could land. The most dangerous worlds in known space. and humans called one of these planets home. The classification was transmitted immediately across the galactic network. Every government, every corporation, every news organization received the update within minutes. By the next morning, everything humanity had built in 50 years of peaceful cooperation began to crumble. Defense fleets scrambled to blockade human territories. Trade ships diverted their routes to avoid human space. Parents pulled their children from schools with human teachers. Hospitals escorted human doctors out of their buildings. The galaxy had just discovered it had been living alongside apex predators from a nightmare world. And nobody knew what to do about it. Dr. Emily Grant stood in her laboratory on the beautiful planet of Selenthera Prime, reading the message on her datapad for the third time. She could not believe what she was seeing. Eviction notice. 24 hours to leave. After 8 years of working here. Emily, I am truly sorry. Her research partner Kilvin appeared in the doorway. His body was made of living crystal that usually sparkled with happy colors. Today those colors looked dim and nervous. Emily set down the datapad carefully. Kilvin, we have been friends for 8 years. We are only 3 weeks away from finishing our cellular regeneration project. This research could save millions of lives. I know, Kilvin said quietly. His crystal form flickered with an emotion Emily had never seen before. But the Assembly has passed Emergency Decree 7745. All humans must leave non-human territories within 30 days. This is ridiculous, Emily said, trying to stay calm. I have never hurt anyone. I have only tried to help. Kilvin moved closer, but not as close as he normally would. Emily, do you understand what a Class 15 Deathworld means? It means your planet is one of the most dangerous places in the entire galaxy. Earth has some dangerous animals, yes, but humans are not dangerous. We are peaceful. Are you? Kilvin's voice rose slightly. Yesterday I learned something terrible. That creature you showed me pictures of. The one you called Max. You said he was your dog. Emily smiled, remembering. Yes, Max was wonderful. I had him for 12 years before he died. He was the sweetest. He was a predator. Kilvin's colors flashed red with fear. I looked up what a dog is, Emily. They are descended from wolves. They have fangs designed to tear meat from bones. And you kept one inside your house. You let it sleep in the same room as your children. Emily felt her stomach drop. She had never thought about Max that way. But Max was not dangerous. He was gentle and loving. He protected my kids. Protected them from what? Other predators on your nightmare planet? Kilvin backed toward the door. And you told me you also had 2 cats. I researched those too. Ambush predators with retractable claws and night vision. You kept multiple predators as pets, Emily. What kind of species does that? For the first time, Emily saw real fear in her friend's eyes. He was afraid of her. Similar scenes were happening across the entire galaxy. Human doctors arrived at hospitals to find the doors locked. Human engineers were escorted off construction sites by armed security. Human teachers discovered their classrooms empty because parents had pulled every single child out of school. On the financial networks, chaos erupted. Stock markets crashed as companies realized their human employees might legally be classified as dangerous animals. Insurance companies canceled policies. Trade agreements were torn up. Shipping routes were redrawn to avoid any system with a human presence. The news channels played the same discussions endlessly. Experts from every species debated the human problem. If humans wanted to conquer the galaxy, could we stop them? Are they just predators pretending to be civilized? How did we not notice what they really were? Captain Jack Miller sat in the cockpit of his freighter ship, the Tenacious Spirit, reading the order that made no sense. He had been a cargo pilot for 15 years. He knew every route, every station, every shortcut. Control, this is Tenacious Spirit, he said into his communications system. Please confirm your last message. You are ordering me to add 6 extra days to my route. Confirmed, Spirit, the traffic controller replied. Human vessels are now prohibited from using assembly core routes. You must take the long way around. Jack felt his jaw tighten. Control, I am carrying medical supplies. They expire in 72 hours. If I take the long route, those supplies will be useless. The colony I am delivering to will lose patients. Children will die. Maintain your new course, Spirit. This is not negotiable. Jack looked at his co-pilot. Rhys was a Felinian, covered in soft fur with large intelligent eyes. They had worked together for 3 years. They had shared meals, told stories, celebrated holidays together. Rhys would not look at him. Jack, Rhys said very quietly. Maybe we should just do what they say. Until things calm down. Until things calm down? Jack felt something cold settle in his chest. Riss, we are friends. We have trusted each other with our lives dozens of times. That was before. Riss's voice was barely a whisper. Before I knew you came from a Class 15 Deathworld. Before I knew what you really are. Jack stared at his friend. His partner. Someone he had saved from a depressurization accident last year. Someone whose child's birthday he had attended. What am I, Riss? Jack asked. Tell me. What am I? Riss still would not meet his eyes. I do not know anymore. On his sensors, Jack could see 3 patrol ships moving into intercept positions. They were not taking any chances with a human pilot who might refuse orders. Jack changed his course to the long route. The medical supplies in his cargo hold would expire long before he arrived. People would die because of it. But nobody cared about that right now. They only cared that a human was following orders. Across the galaxy, millions of humans experienced the same rejection. Friends who suddenly became strangers. Colleagues who suddenly saw monsters. Communities that suddenly wanted them gone. In just one day, 50 years of peaceful cooperation vanished like smoke. The galaxy had decided that humans were too dangerous to trust. And there was nothing humans could do to change their minds. The video of Captain Jack Miller being forced to change his route spread across the galactic network within hours. Billions of beings watched a human cargo pilot redirected away from his normal path. His cargo of medical supplies would expire before reaching the colony that desperately needed them. Among humans across the galaxy, confusion turned into anger. Ambassador Robert Hayes stood outside the sealed doors of the Galactic Assembly Chamber. He had been Earth's representative for 12 years. He had friends inside that room. Or at least he thought he did. 50 years, he said loudly, knowing the security systems would carry his voice inside. We have been peaceful partners for 50 years. We have helped build stations, cured diseases, explored new worlds together. And now you lock us out and call us monsters. The doors remained closed. No one answered him. Inside the chamber, a coalition of frightened governments had invoked something called precautionary protocols. It was an ancient law designed to handle dangerous situations. Earth's representatives were banned from all meetings until further notice. On the university planet of Meridian 4, the fear turned violent. Sophie Turner was 19 years old and studying xenobiology. She loved learning about different alien species and dreamed of becoming a doctor who could treat any species in the galaxy. She had friends from 7 different planets. Or she used to have friends. Now those friends crossed the street to avoid her. They whispered when she walked past. Some looked at her with fear. Others with hatred. Sophie was walking back to her dormitory after a late study session when 3 methane breathers cornered her in a narrow alley. They wore their environmental suits, but she could see their hostile body language clearly. Deathworlder, one hissed through its translator. Go back to your nightmare planet before you hurt someone. Please, Sophie raised her hands peacefully. I'm just a student. I have never hurt anyone. You exist. That is threat enough. The first blow hit her in the stomach. Sophie doubled over in pain. The second blow struck her head. The third caught her arm and she heard a crack as the bone broke. They kept hitting her, kicking her. She tried to protect her head with her arms. Then suddenly they stopped and ran away. Campus security was approaching, their lights flashing in the darkness. The security officers found Sophie lying on the ground, bleeding from cuts on her face and body. Her arm was bent at a wrong angle. 3 ribs were broken. She had severe bruising across her entire body. The medical team arrived and carefully loaded her onto a stretcher. The doctor examined her injuries and looked worried. These injuries would kill most species, the doctor said quietly. But Sophie was conscious. In pain, yes, but conscious and talking. I will be okay, she whispered through split lips. She was released from the medical center 18 hours later. The broken bones were already beginning to heal. The cuts were closing. Her body was doing what human bodies did best on a Class 15 Deathworld. It was surviving. The security footage went viral across the galaxy. Beings everywhere watched 3 attackers beat a young human woman and run away. They watched her stand up afterward, broken but not defeated. To most species it looked like proof. Humans were unstoppable. Even broken and bleeding, they kept going. The fear grew worse. On Earth, the Unity government held emergency meetings. Admiral Patricia Stone stood before the Global Defense Council with a grim expression. They are terrified of us, she told the council members. And terrified people make dangerous choices. I recommend moving our defense fleets to protective positions around every human colony. President Wilson shook his head. That will look like we are preparing for war. And doing nothing will look like weakness, Admiral Stone replied firmly. There are predators out there who actually are dangerous. If they think we cannot defend ourselves, they will attack our colonies. We protect our people first. We can explain our intentions later. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Human defense fleets moved into protective formations around colonies and stations throughout human space. Military analysts across the galaxy watched the deployment with growing dread. They saw perfectly coordinated fleet movements. They saw tactical formations that most species needed computer assistance to achieve. They saw humans doing naturally what others needed technology to accomplish. They are preparing for war, the military advisor to the Harmonious Assembly announced. The humans are going to attack. But the advisor was completely wrong. Humans were not preparing to attack anyone. They were doing what they had always done throughout their entire history. They were protecting their families. The misunderstanding was complete. The galaxy saw human defense as aggression. Humans saw galactic fear as betrayal. Then the distress call arrived. This is New Hope Station in the Outer Rim, a panicked voice transmitted across all emergency channels. We are under attack by Vrexian forces. Repeat, Vrexian attack in progress. We have 6,000 civilians here, mixed species. We need immediate assistance. Please, anyone who can hear this, help us. The Galactic Assembly chamber filled with urgent debate. Everyone knew about the Vrexians. They were massive warriors, 3 meters tall and covered in biological armor. They had never been defeated in battle. Ever. Even the mighty Assembly fleet refused to fight them directly. The colony will fall within 48 hours. The military advisor stated coldly. I recommend evacuation if anyone volunteers to retrieve survivors. The chamber fell completely silent. No one wanted to face the Vrexians. Then Ambassador Hayes's voice came through the security system. He was still standing outside the sealed doors. Earth volunteers our rapid response fleet, he said clearly. We will go to New Hope Station immediately. Absolutely not. Multiple voices shouted at once. This is obviously a trick. The humans want to show off their military power. They want an excuse to prove they are superior warriors. We cannot allow this. People are dying. Hayes shouted back. The door stayed closed. The answer was no. 6 hours later, the human fleet jumped to New Hope Station anyway. And every species in the galaxy watched the live feeds, expecting to see the Deathworlders unleash destruction. What they saw instead would change everything. Lieutenant James Parker's boots hit the metal deck of New Hope Station as explosions shook the walls around him. Smoke filled the corridors and emergency alarms screamed warnings in 7 different languages. Squad, fan out, James ordered calmly. Priority is civilian evacuation. Defensive positions on levels 3 and 5. Move. His squad scattered with practiced efficiency. 5 humans, 2 Felinians, 1 methane breather, and a living rock creature named Quartz. They had trained together for 2 years. Across the galaxy, military analysts watched the live feeds in confusion. They expected to see humans charging forward with overwhelming firepower. They expected destruction and violence. Instead, they saw something completely different. Human Marines were guiding terrified civilians toward evacuation shuttles. A human soldier carried a Felinian child in one arm while providing covering fire with the other. Another human stayed behind to help an elderly chlorine breather who moved too slowly to keep up with the group. This makes no tactical sense, one analyst muttered. Why are they prioritizing the weak? In the medical bay, Dr. Emma Walsh worked frantically. Her hands moved quickly between patients. A Felinian child with a broken leg. A human teenager with burns. An elderly being whose species she had never treated before. Ma'am, we need to evacuate now, a young Marine said urgently. The Vrexians are breaking through the outer defenses. Not until every patient is stable enough to move, Emma replied without looking up. She finished sealing a wound and moved to the next bed. Get me more plasma for the Felinian. Now. The Marine hesitated for just a moment, then ran to get the supplies. The Vrexians hit the outer defenses like a crashing wave. They were terrifying to see. 3 meters tall, covered in armor that looked like it had grown from their own bodies. Their weapons could punch through reinforced walls. They had crushed every military force they had ever faced. They had never fought humans before. Contact. James's squad opened fire. But they were not firing randomly. Each shot was carefully aimed. They targeted joints in the armor. Weapon systems. Sensor arrays. Anything that looked like a weak point. A massive Vrexian warrior charged directly at James's position. Its footsteps shook the floor. Its roar was loud enough to hurt James's ears. James did something that seemed completely insane to anyone watching. Instead of running away or taking cover, he ran toward the enemy. He slid under the Vrekshin's guard like a baseball player sliding into home base. While sliding, he attached a small explosive charge to the back of the warrior's armor. Then he rolled away and scrambled behind cover. The explosion staggered the huge warrior. Its back armor cracked open. James's squad mate Kira, a Felinian with excellent aim, immediately fired 3 shots into the exposed area. The Vrekshin fell. "Good kill," James said, helping Kira back to her feet. "I could not have done it without your crazy slide," Kira replied. Across the station the same pattern repeated. Humans and aliens working together perfectly. They communicated without needing technology. They seemed to read each other's intentions through tiny gestures and body language. They adapted their tactics in real time, changing strategies to counter whatever the Vrekshins tried. The Vrekshins had never experienced anything like this. They were used to enemies who fought with pure strength or superior technology. Humans fought with something different. They fought with teamwork and creativity. A group of Vrekshins found themselves surrounded in a cargo bay. They prepared for death. In every battle they had ever fought, defeated warriors were executed immediately. James's squad entered the cargo bay with weapons ready. The Vrekshins raised their arms in surrender, expecting the end. "Lower your weapons," James ordered his squad. He activated his translator and spoke to the Vrekshins. "You are now prisoners of war. You will receive medical treatment according to galactic conventions. Drop your weapons slowly and move against that wall." The Vrekshin commander stared at him in complete confusion. "We are defeated. You do not execute defeated enemies? Why would we do that?" James asked, genuinely puzzled by the question. The Vrekshin had no answer. In medical bays throughout the station, human doctors treated everyone equally. Humans, aliens, and even wounded Vrekshin prisoners all received the same level of care. A human nurse held the hand of a frightened Vrekshin while a doctor repaired its damaged armor implants. "You help us?" the Vrekshin whispered in shock. "We attacked you." "You are hurt," the nurse replied simply. "We help people who are hurt. That is what we do." The battle lasted 16 hours. It was brutal and exhausting. The station structure was heavily damaged. 73 civilians were killed despite the evacuation efforts. The human fleet took 80% casualties. But New Hope Station did not fall. When the remaining Vrekshin forces retreated, they left behind something they had never left before. Prisoners who were alive and receiving medical care. Admiral Patricia Stone stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable. Her uniform was torn and stained with blood. She had not slept in 20 hours. Burns covered her left arm from an explosion on Deck 7. "Ma'am," her communications officer said quietly, "you are receiving a lot of messages." Patricia pulled up the communication feed. Thousands of messages were pouring in from across the galaxy. Some were grateful. Some were still afraid. Some demanded explanations. But they all asked the same basic question. What kind of species fights so hard to protect people who had just rejected them? What kind of warriors show mercy to defeated enemies? What kind of predators from a death world use their strength to save the weak instead of dominating them? Patricia was too tired to answer most of the messages. But she sent one simple reply that would be repeated across every news network in the galaxy. "We protect our pack. And our pack is everyone who needs protection." In the detention area of New Hope Station, a Vrekshin prisoner named Krovar sat quietly while a human doctor examined his injuries. Krovar had fought in hundreds of battles. He had killed thousands of enemies. He had expected to die today. Instead, he was alive and being helped by the very people he had tried to kill. "Why?" he asked the doctor. The doctor looked up from her work. "Why what? Why do you help me? I am your enemy." The doctor smiled gently. "You were my enemy. Now you are my patient. And I help my patients." Krovar felt something he had never experienced before. Something that might have been hope. 3 weeks after the battle at New Hope Station, the Galactic Assembly reconvened. This time the doors were open. Earth's representatives were allowed inside. Dr. Emily Grant stood at the presentation podium, looking out at thousands of alien beings. These were the same beings who had spent the last month treating her species like dangerous monsters. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice was steady. "Yes," she began simply. "Earth is a Class 15 death world. The classification is scientifically accurate. Earth is deadly." The chamber remained completely silent. Everyone waited to hear what she would say next. "But that is exactly why we value cooperation," Emily continued. She activated a holographic display showing images of early human history. For 200,000 years, humans could not survive Earth alone. We are not the strongest species on our planet. Not the fastest. Not the most poisonous. The images showed a human standing next to a bear. The bear was 3 times larger. Then a human next to a lion. The lion had claws and fangs that could kill in seconds. Then a tiny mosquito that killed more humans than any large predator. We survived through cooperation, Emily explained. Through working together. Through making friends with other species. We domesticated wolves and turned them into dogs. We partnered with horses for transportation. We learned to live alongside cats who protected our food from rodents. We even learned to keep bees and they gave us honey in return. She showed images of humans with their animal companions. A child sleeping peacefully next to a large dog. A farmer working with a horse. A family cat sitting in a sunny window. We do not just bond with our own species, Emily said. We bond with everything that will accept us. It is not a weakness. It is our greatest strength. It is how we survived. Kilvin stepped forward then. His crystal body sparkled with nervous energy. I was afraid of Dr. Grant for 3 weeks. I thought she was a monster from a Deathworld. But then I looked back at our 8 years working together. She never once used her physical advantages against me. She never made me feel small or weak. She treated me as an equal partner. Always. Other testimonies followed. A Felinian teacher spoke about her human colleague who stayed late every day to help struggling students. A methane breather engineer described how his human partner had saved his life during a reactor malfunction, risking her own safety without hesitation. Then came the testimony that shocked everyone. A massive Vrexian warrior named Krovar stood before the assembly. He still bore scars from the battle at New Hope Station. The chamber filled with frightened whispers. Vrexians were the terror of the Outer Rim. What was one doing here? My people have attacked others for 300 years, Krovar said through his translator. His voice was deep and rough. We believed the galaxy saw us as monsters. We believed we could only survive through strength and fear. We were wrong. He paused, looking around the chamber. The humans defeated us in battle. We expected execution. Instead, they gave us medical care. They fed us. They asked us why we fought instead of simply destroying us. Krovar's huge hand touched the scar on his chest. A human doctor repaired this wound. She worked for 6 hours to save my life. The life of an enemy warrior. When I asked her why, she said I was her patient. She said she helps people who are hurt. His voice became quieter. If these are the monsters from a death world, then perhaps the galaxy needs more monsters. Perhaps we need beings who are strong enough to be gentle. Who are dangerous enough to choose peace. The chamber erupted in debate. The discussion lasted for hours. Some governments still wanted to quarantine all humans permanently. Others argued that humans had just proven they were exactly the kind of allies the galaxy needed. Finally, a compromise emerged. The Class 15 designation would remain. It was scientifically correct and changing it would be dishonest. But humans would receive a new subcategory classification, Collaborative Apex Species. New protocols were established. Human cultural liaison programs would help other species understand human behavior. Joint task forces would handle dangerous missions that required both strength and compassion. Research partnerships would study how Deathworld cooperation strategies could benefit everyone. The exclusion zones were lifted. Trade routes reopened. Human workers were welcomed back to their jobs, though some places remained nervous and kept restrictions in place. Nobody forced them to change immediately. 6 months later, Captain Jack Miller guided his ship, the Tenacious Spirit, along his old familiar route. His cargo hold was full of medical supplies heading to a colony on time. His co-pilot Rhys sat beside him, their friendship slowly healing. I am sorry, Rhys said quietly. For doubting you. For being afraid. Jack smiled. We are good, Rhys. Fear makes everyone do things they regret later. What matters is that you are here now. Dr. Emily Grant became the director of the new Interspecies Understanding Institute. Her first official hire was Kilvin. Together, they developed programs to help different species understand each other better. Sophie Turner recovered from her injuries and returned to university. The 3 beings who had attacked her were arrested and faced justice. Sophie later became an ambassador, specializing in helping species overcome fear and prejudice. She was very good at it. On New Hope Station, now rebuilt and stronger than before, a popular bar called the Survivor's Toast became famous across the sector. Humans and aliens gathered there every evening to share stories and drinks. On one particular evening, A young Felinian named Tresh nervously approached a human patron named Henry Cooper who was sitting at the bar. "Excuse me," Tresh said shyly. "Is it true that you kept large predators in your homes as companions?" Henry grinned warmly and pulled out a small holographic projector. An image appeared of a golden retriever named Bella. She was running through a park, tongue hanging out happily. "Yeah, that is Bella. Best friend I ever had. She died when I was 15. I still miss her every day." Tresh stared at the image. He saw the powerful body, the large jaws, the sharp teeth. "That creature could kill me in seconds." "Bella?" Henry laughed kindly. "No way. She would probably lick you to death, maybe. Want to see videos of her playing with kittens?" Tresh hesitated, then nodded. Henry played the video. The deadly predator was gently nosing tiny kittens, protecting them, playing carefully so she would not hurt them. When one kitten climbed on her head, Bella sat perfectly still so it would not fall. "You come from the most dangerous world in the galaxy," Tresh said slowly, understanding dawning. "And you use that strength to protect the weak." "We protect our pack," Henry said simply. "And our pack is everyone who will have us." Outside the bar, New Hope Station bustled with life. Humans and aliens worked side by side. Building, creating, protecting each other. The galaxy had learned something important. The most dangerous predators were not always the ones to fear. Sometimes they were exactly the ones you wanted as friends.